to the GitHub Twitch Open Source Friday stream. I am so excited to have so many of you here. Hello and welcome to B Dougie. Welcome to MV Karen. How are you? Hey Pink Cam. Great to have you here as well. We're super excited. We've got a very special guest with us today for Open Source Friday. We are in the Australian time zone, but he's coming to us all the way from Poland. So we're very excited to have with us the creator of JS13K Games. How are you going? Hello and welcome. How are you today? Oh, give us 1 second. 1 second. You're muted. There we go. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good. Really happy to have you here. We're super excited that you could be part of our streams. And again, thank you so much for getting up so early. I think you said it was like, what, 5 or 6 a.m. where you are?
Yeah, exactly 6 a.m. But I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
We are very excited to have you. Now, I think my first order of business, I was chatting to Lee, I believe. You may know Lee. You and Lee have worked together for a little while. And I was chatting to Lee and I was like, how do you pronounce his name? And Lee's like, that's something you're going to have to ask him. So could you please tell me, how do I pronounce your name so I can welcome you all to the lovely viewers here?
So it's Andrzej.
Andrzej.
Yeah.
I got it?
Yeah, perfectly. I mean, you can use Andrew, you can use Ender. I'm fine with whatever suits you.
Sounds good. Now, Vidog, you say your audio is a little bit low, so you just want to, I'll get you to talk just for a little bit, just to introduce yourself, and maybe have a bit about how you get started in playing video games and things, and I'll kind of adjust the audio as you're chatting.
Sure. So my company is called Enclave Games, so you can imagine that if you played Fallout, there was this faction called Enclave. So I was influenced by Fallout 2 to be exact. I was working as a front-end developer for many years, and then decided to switch to building games actually, which was I was using JavaScript, so I wanted to see if you can build JavaScript games, and it was pretty early, but you could do that. It kind of worked, and it went from there.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that we're here to talk about today is JS13K Games. So for all those people who don't know about JS13K Games, would you like to tell us about it? I mean, I could obviously talk about it. I don't think I would do it justice. So tell all our amazing viewers what JS13K Games is all about.
Sure. So it's an online competition that runs yearly since 2012. It runs between and September 13th. And if you're an HTML5 game developer, you are given a task to create a game in 13 kilobytes zip package. So it's quite a challenge, but from what I saw, in the participants really picked that size limit, and I think it got quite popular because of that. So you have a whole month. You don't have to spend like 48 hours locked in a basement and drink energy drinks. You can participate in your own pace. You can work in the evenings, over the weekends if you don't have time, if you work full time, or if you go on 2-week vacations. And I think that's also quite important in this competition, that you don't have to rush building something.
So it's not like one of those 48-hour hackathon things. It's more like Hacktoberfest or the GitHub hackathon we have running, where you can, as you said, get to work at your own pace, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I was like, wow, 13 kilobytes that can't be a lot of kilobytes. Like, give us some context of like what 13 kilobytes is. Like, how big are some games, like, standard games these days, and like just how small is 13 kilobytes?
That's quite small. There are small screenshots on the website where the entries are listed, and those are bigger than the games themselves.
The screenshots
Um,
of the game.
yes, the small screenshots. Um, that's quite challenging. I mean, games right now, you usually, even web games, are measured in megabytes, and desktop games in gigabytes. So 13 kilobytes is really, really small. Um, and it's interesting that if you switch your mindset to some rules, it's actually not that small. Obviously, you can't use big images or big libraries, but there is a lib called Contra, which will give you some basic tools to start your development. And with the right approach, and the key here is procedural generation, you can have something showed on the screen um, that will look interesting, and it won't take much space.
So what are some of your top tips for saving space in a game? Because obviously, as you mentioned, like half the screenshots on your website are more than 13 kilobytes. So how do you actually save that much space?
So I would recommend checking out the resources page, which is quite long right now with so many resources, tutorials, and articles about all the ways to prepare something for the competition. Um, I would say that if you don't want to create something from scratch, Contra.js is the most popular micro framework. It takes a few kilobytes, and there are a few tutorials how to get started with Contra. And you can use images if you do try to have them in one sprite sheet, and you can use tools like TinyPNG to lower the size of the sprite sheet. There are also tools for sounds and music. It sounds interesting that an MP3 will have like 3 megabytes, but you can still generate sounds and generate music using JavaScript and play that in your entry, and this will fit within the 30 kilobytes size limit. So you might be surprised with some entries where they have cool graphics, sounds and music and all that, and that's all in 13 kilobytes. You can remember about the fact that this is the size of the zip package. Zip compresses text and code really well. So if you put everything in one index.html, if you embed images, if you generate sounds, this should compress really good, and you should be able to build something within the size limit. Plus, we have the WebXR category where you are free to use libraries like A-Frame, which will give you components for free, which you can build your game into. And I remember people were telling me that when they tried A-Frame, uh, they didn't even use the whole 13 kilobytes because you could build something in like 5 or 6 kilobyte zip, which was really, really cool.
That's pretty insane. We've got Karen in the chat saying the good old jQuery itself is at least 27 kilobytes. And if you think about some of even the early games, like Ocarina of Time, I think was 32 megabytes, which is still in itself insane considering the size of games now. And so when you think of something that's only 13 kilobytes, you think, oh, well, it can't be that good. Like it can't be that big. It can't be like that intense. So what are the kind of games that people are actually producing with 13 kilobytes?
That's quite interesting because at the very beginning, like a few years ago, um, those games were usually simple 2D games because in general, web games, it was a challenge to build something for the web. But it evolved over the years. And I remember, I think there's still a question in the rules if someone can use WebGL. And it was, I've written this like a few years ago that you actually can try having WebGL, but it might be hard to create a first-person shooter. And a few people took this as a challenge, and they actually built a few 3D first-person shooters. One was called something like Yet Another Doom Clone or something like that. And it was really, really impressive. People were building 3D real-time strategy games with shaders, lighting, and everything. And I'm blown away by how you can actually do that. It's like um, I had no idea you could do something like that. And the best thing about the competition is that every single entry from every possible year, their source code in a commented form is available on GitHub. So you can actually play any of the 1,300 something games, and you
Whoa.
can check the source code of every possible submission and see how someone built it. And
Wow.
yeah.
And so you're saying that people aren't just making like, Pong or tic tac toe or anything like they're actually making like shooters and role playing games in less than 13 kilobytes.
Yes.
That's just like mind blowing. So you mentioned
It is.
that a lot of the games are available. Actually, all the games are available on GitHub. So if we jump into and we look at some of the, I think we can look here and look at the previous games. So where if I wanted to find a game, well, let's bring up a game, maybe one of your favorite ones. Um, where would we go to find these games and to check them out?
Um, if you click on 2019,
Yep.
um, you should see the page from previous years, and you can click on winners or entries at the top.
Yep.
At the top, yeah.
Oh wow.
So I can't say I have one or few favorite games because I have like a ton of those. And
pick a
the uh, that's like too tough for me. I mean,
this one looks
yeah,
like a
Swagshot,
shooter.
yeah,
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 right. Let's
yeah.
have a look
You
here.
can
Okay, so
try
we go
that.
here. We're presented with their page. We've got their Twitter, their website, and then their GitHub. So if we go have a look at their GitHub repo. Alrighty. They got a good readme. We know exactly what it is. So intended to be a throwback to the 90s first-person shooters. Wow. You've got 5 weapons. You got a pistol, rocket launcher, you got me. Shotgun, machine gun, and railgun. And the goal is to score as many points as possible for eliminating the robots. This looks insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there are so many cool games, and the level of quality is like so intense that over the years, my personal favorites were ending in like top 20, top 50, top 100. Uh, if you play the entries, um, it's insane that games from like there were games that were ending up like a year or 2 years ago in like 120th place, and it was my favorite, and I was hoping for this game to win, and it was like 100
Hang on,
something.
just take that back. Over 100 games are submitted every year for this. You're saying?
Actually, recently it's 250 around that.
Whoa! So over 250 people every single year, or at least the last couple of years.
More people because it's 250 entries. There are solo developers, many of them, but there are also teams. I remember some team had like 8 people working on an entry. So sometimes it's crazy.
That's insane, but my mind is still on, hang on, there's that many games produced each year just for this that are less than 13 kilobytes.
Yes, and I'm not even surprised by stories people telling me that they take a vacation from their day job to focus on the competition, which is kind of a crazy, but it happens.
Okay, so this competition, it sounds like there's some pretty cool prizes up for grabs then if people are taking time off. So what can people, win as prizes? And we'll start there first. What can you get from being part of this?
So there are a whole bunch of different prizes. Usually about 20 something different kinds of prizes. Usually those are software licenses for anything you can imagine you could use for game development or front-end development, because many participants are front-end developers as well. We also have the tradition of sending t-shirts, which designs are created every single year. So you have different kinds of designs. And if you end up in top 100 overall or 15 games in the WebXR category, you will get a free t-shirt shipped worldwide for free. We also have some hardware prizes. This year in the WebXR category, we have the Magic Leap AR device. The web monetization one have Nintendo Switch. We also have stuff for every participant. The web monetization thing is supported by Coil, and they are offering free memberships to every participant who submit a game. And there are many different licenses for creating graphics, for writing code, for editors, for whatever you can basically imagine.
Yeah, there are a bunch of different categories as well, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I stopped counting like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, but when I did, the prizes were usually worth about $20,000, which is kind of impressive, I think. But the cool thing is people value participation itself, and like getting feedback from experts, from judges, and creating the games. So even though there's a bunch of prizes, it's not the most important part of the competition.
Have there been any like big wins or anything like that in the last few years? Like, has any like game gone on to either the game itself or the developers gone on to like be part of a bigger company or produce like a big game or anything like that?
Yeah, so there were games like Evil Glitch or Glitch Buster, which won a few years ago, and the authors of them created. So many developers are creating post-competition versions of their games, but Evil Glitch and Glitch Buster were the games that the developers went one step further, and they released the games on Steam. So you could actually buy the games on Steam that were the prototypes, I would say, were created during the competition. So that's kind of really cool. And interesting stories are also, if you're looking for a job, you can participate in the competition, because many developers were recruited because of building games for the competition. And I had success stories from people who participated. Some companies were supporting the competition, recruited, and those developers, and they were then representing those companies as experts or judges in the competition, which is kind of cool.
That's pretty cool. Now, if I have a quick look at your resources page, and when I go back to this because this is the Open Source Friday stream, so if I check out your resources page, there's a whole bunch of resources and stuff on how to get started and things like that. What kind of resources are there, or what kind of platforms are people building on top of? Like, are there open source platforms that people are taking and utilizing, or are most of these games like built completely from scratch?
It's mostly open source. There are so many tools people can just use for free and modify it and use it however they want. I mentioned Contra.js, which I think is the most popular micro library. But there are so many tools and people are sharing whatever they are building. There is a guy called Maxime Auzier. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, nicknamed Xem, who built so many tools for JS13K before the competition starts that it can help with basically anything you can imagine in the competition. Having good controls, showing emojis, processing stuff, etc., etc. If you want to play with CSS 3D, there are plenty of tools for that. And he's only one guy out of like many other people building, creating tools and sharing them on GitHub. Which I'm really proud of because it's all about the community. People really care for each other and help each other. And if you have any issues with anything, you can jump on our Slack, ask questions, and someone will definitely help you. Because it is a competition, but it's a competition in which you want to build something and you can help other developers create something. And I think that's kind of important.
I think that's what I really love about hackathons. Like, even though you're all in, or game jams, even though you're all in, different teams and you're working towards, like, the challenge, people are really, really keen to help other people out. And if I look at these resource pages, like nearly everything here is on GitHub, so everyone go check it out. I know Lee Riley is here in the chat. Hey Lee, thanks for dropping in. Unfortunately, we've disabled link sharing on our Twitch stream, so thanks for sharing all the links, Lee. I'm trying to reshare them back again for you because we don't have link sharing enabled for a bunch of obvious reasons, but Lee sends his regards over anyhow. Now I wanted to have a quick chat. I wanted to have a quick chat about how you really got into this. I know you talked a little bit about like how JS13K Games started and things like that, but like I'm assuming you're a gamer yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So how did you get into gaming? What kind of games do you like?
So I kind of like so I mentioned Enclave games. Fallout 2 is like an important game for me. And I think I pretty early started thinking about building games. Even before starting my job as a front-end developer, I was studying, learning C++. So for my bachelor degree, I created a platformer game in C++ because it was the only language I known back then. So gaming is obviously important for me, but from the very beginning, I thought about how those games could have been built and if I could build something similar. I was playing with jQuery in like, I don't know, 2010-ish or something, and seeing if you can build anything with it. And you could actually build games with jQuery. Then some HTML5 game engines started to appear, so I experimented with that. So I do play games, not that much anymore that I would like to, but I also enjoy developing games. And whenever I play something, I imagine if I could like maybe change it somehow, or like, take some lessons from that. So it's kind of not 100% enjoying playing the games, but like thinking about, well, maybe I could change this or add that to my game or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Now I'm a little bit of a gamer myself. I play games and stream. So I thought I would do really briefly is this is the winner from last year. And by the looks of it, we can literally just go onto the website and click play the game. So this is the person who won last year. Would you like to talk to this? And also as a judge, because you're one of the judges, what are the judges looking for when they play the game? Yeah, and just maybe some of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so it's so the game is really cool. You control the an entity that have to like go, like escape, open the gates, or and
Wow.
so yeah. So the task is you have to go to the red spot, open the gate, but okay, what now? So the thing is, now you are presented with a second version of yourself, and you have to operate. So you obviously have to put one entity on the button to open the gate and use the other to go to the second spot.
And how is people able to make this as like how is this 13 kilobytes?
Exactly.
I don't get it.
That's a good question. I mean, you can check the source code. There are so many lessons learned blog posts called postmortems, where you can read about how the games were actually created and about the judging, about the scoring. So basically, experts right now focus on giving constructive feedback, because when I asked what is the most important aspect of the competition, many people respond that feedback from the judges, from the experts. So getting feedback from the experts saying this was really good and this could be improved was really, really important. And so the voting system is actually participants themselves voting for each other's games, so they can really value stuff because they know how hard it is to build something in 13 kilobytes.
Yeah, this is insane. Like,
yeah.
I'm just blown away how people can do this. This is just intense.
Yeah, so there are so many really cool games. I mean, you can play those games for hours. There are games blowing your mind, and they were like 26th place 2 years ago or something like that. So it's really impressive that the level of quality is so high.
Yeah, I mean, this is just blowing my mind right now at how this is able to be 13 kilobytes. Like, there's like sounds in it. There are like different like look at all the things that are happening on the screen. Even like little things I'm picking up, like the fact that there's a light over the current, like this, the one that I'm currently controlling. So you can see as I move it around, like there's a light that shines on top of it. The animation of taking you back, all these extra things now. It's like the fact that it's also 3D. I'm just like,
yeah.
Like,
so it was interesting that it was actually in the very first year already that I learned. There was one game that eventually won the competition in 2012 called Space P, which so I was playtesting the games to see if they work so I can accept them. But I started playing Space P, and after 1 hour or so, I realized that I should be. I think, I have a bug there. You have to remove the 80 port from the URL.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
So this is the one that won back in the first time.
Yeah, so it won in 2012, and so the most impressive thing about this game was that it didn't look like a game created in 13 kilobytes. It looked full. It looked like a full game that somebody didn't care about the 13 kilobyte limit. So the game the game mechanic is rather simple. You defend your planet from attacks. And then you get some bonus points, coins, extra stuff. You can upgrade your base. So the most impressive part was that it didn't look like 13, like somebody had to compromise something for the size of 13 kilobytes. It just looked like a complete game with many options, levels, bonuses, etc., etc.
They've got like a whole like almost like system where you can like upgrade and buy things. Like they've
exactly.
Wow. So this is the first. So this was obviously the first year. Did you even think that something like this was possible?
No, I mean, every single year I'm really surprised by what can you actually build within the size limit. I had no idea you can like build so many cool games, and seeing first-person shooters or like real-time strategy games, 3D with shaders and everything. That's like super impressive. And
I love the fact that they're all on GitHub as well.
Yes, so as I mentioned before, every single entry from every single year, their source code in a readable form, because you submit a compressed, minified code to the competition, but you also have to provide a link to the GitHub repository with commented or at least readable source code. So you can actually see how the games were implemented. I was worried that people will copy that and submit in the next years as their own. Interestingly enough, this doesn't happen. So I'm really happy that people use that to learn. So for example, the next year, the exact same guy won the second year. With even better game. And then I think it was like third or fourth year when he built another game that was even better than the first two, but he ended up in, I don't know, top 10 or top 20 because the level of quality already increased. So it's super impressive to see more and more high quality games And as I mentioned, one of my favorites from 2 or 3 years ago that would totally win the competition in 2012, 2013, or 14 ended up in 100 something place.
Means the
So yeah,
quality's getting
that's
better, right?
absolutely yes.
And like if we look at a lot of these, like not all the games have them, but like most of the games I'm seeing have um, like a license, which means they are open source. If you've got a license, you can open source it, and that's really good to hear that not everyone is taking those games and just simply rehashing them or building on top of them. They're actually creating something brand new every year, and I think that's like a testament to what you've built. And also the type of people who are coming in, I think that's just really cool, and it's so good to hear. There's just grown so much. So there's probably a bunch of people either that are listening in right now or that are going to be watching the VOD afterwards. They're like, hey, this is really cool. I would love to do it. What are your tips for like just getting involved?
So there was a famous quote, how do I start making games? How do I become a game developer? And the answer is start making games. Because there are so many tutorials and so many learning material that to become a game developer, you can just start building games and that's it. There's no certificate, no nothing that gets you there. If you start building games, you're a game developer already. So there are plenty of resources. If you want to learn from the competition, people are writing postmortems in which they describe what went good during the development of the game for the competition, what they could have done better, etc., etc. So yeah, in general, if you want to start building games, just start building games. And I think the most important part is like playing with the code, creating something for fun, and seeing if this works. And you can, it could be your day job. It's not easy, I would say. If you want to earn a lot, you could probably stay as a front-end developer in a corporation. But if this is your passion and you want to make money out of that, you can. Many games that were submitted to the competition were then submitted to publisher portals where publishers pay for having those games on their websites. So you can actually make money out of creating games even for the competition. You can create games outside of the competition for game portals. We also have the web monetization category, which is like a new thing where you can actually earn money out of people just playing your games. So that's something you should definitely check out. Yeah, I mean, if you want to become a game developer, just start building games, and with with the experience, you will build better and better games, and you will be a better developer.
I think that's something we've talked about a lot on these Open Source Friday streams, and it's something that Nick Young from Contour brought up a couple of weeks ago too. People are like, how do I get involved in open source? How do I get involved in this? And we kind of just, like, the answer is always just start. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's game development, whether it's open source that you want to get involved with, it's, you know, just being a developer, content creation, like anything is really, I think the answer is nearly always just start, because if you start somewhere, then you can kind of grow from there. And I think something like JS13 Games is a really good way to get started in game development. I think the fact that it's you know, a small threshold is so good. And one of the guys in the chat, Techie Man, who I know is a developer as well, he's just like, just find a passion, plain and simple, and then you just go for it, right? If you're passionate about something, just do it. And I know some people listening in now and watching the VOD later might be thinking, hey, this is really good. I do actually really want to get started. Are there opportunities for people in JS13K games. You've kind of mentioned it, just touched on a little bit. But to find a team and to find other people to build a game with, you kind of mentioned the Slack channel, but other opportunities for people to find people and submit as a team.
Yes, absolutely. We have a Teams channel where people can connect. And every single year I'm seeing people joining teams, and it can get really crazy because like a few years ago, so there is JS1K, there was JS1K competition where you build something in 1 kilobyte.
How do you even do extreme.
And so a bunch of people joined forces. I don't remember, it was like 5 or 10 different developers. And they created an entry called 26 games in one.
Wow.
And there was like 26 games in one 13 kilobyte zip package. And
Whoa.
that's, yeah.
Well, that's like half a kilobyte each.
Yes, so that's like, and there's a whole bunch of examples like those.
And here I am sitting here going, why does Forza take up 76 gigabytes of space on my game when, you know, people can build a game for half a kilobyte?
Yeah, so I really like seeing people connect and team up with other developers from around the world and building something for the competition. So you can, even if you're totally new, haven't built anything, you can join the community, join forces with someone. And there are so many success stories of people starting from scratch, not knowing anything, joining team, creating something, and then sharing this and saying that, well, this was the very first game I have built. And there are many success stories of people then starting to work on other games or like joining a company, building games, etc., etc. So it's a great opportunity. The tools on the resources page are mostly by other developers just creating something for their own use and then realizing other people could use that as well. So for example, you have written some micro engine or like tool that will compress images better or like will help you do something. You can, since you know how to put stuff on GitHub because you are having your game there already, you can share the tools as well, put it on GitHub on the resources page, and other people can already use them. And that's what open source could be. It is basically using other people open source stuff and contributing. If I'm seeing discussions in the Contra channel about stuff that could be added to the library. The author is there, so he's literally fixing any issues instantly. And like after 5 minutes, it's like, hey, this is like fixed and this is the next release. So it's really awesome to see the whole community working on improving tools.
So you've got the maintainers of certain repos helping out like while this is going on, so they've kind of got in their head that, hey, JS13K Games is available, we're here to help. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes, exactly, and it's really great to see people collaborate. Like yesterday, we announced something called AEST13K, which is like a micro operating system with trophies and all the stuff that. So basically, games showcased on the website share the same local storage. So we usually say don't clear the whole storage because you will remove all the saves from other games. But they took this back. Well, it's not a bug, but like it's not a bug. It's a feature saying that they are using that to be able to create trophies from any game submitted to the competition, and this trophy will be showcased in the AEST13K. So you can actually see all the trophies you can get in different games submitted to the competition.
That's pretty
It's
cool.
also providing some tools to share your generated sounds or music, so you can actually have like a playlist of different kinds of music that is present in the competition entries. So and like I don't know, like 5 or 7 or 10 different people worked on having that released. So I'm really proud of the community of those people doing that for fun and releasing that and giving that to other developers to play with.
Mm-hmm. And if we look at the resources page, we kind of touched on it a little bit. Like most of it, like especially the top bit, the game engines and boilerplates, most of this stuff is on GitHub. And you're saying like the maintainers are getting a lot out of it by having getting feedback directly from the people who are using the product or using the repo, and they're making changes on the fly for the game. Are
Yeah.
you seeing, or do you know if there's any of the maintainers are seeing an uptake in contributions around this time? Like, are any of these people working on their games, are they going back and then contributing to any of these projects? Do you know of?
Yeah, I mean, there are many cases where people create some libraries and then other developers contribute to those, or they help each other, send some bug fixes, etc. So there is a vibrant community, and since all the source code is on GitHub, I'm seeing many developers helping each other and contributing back. And since like many people use Contra, for example, the spike in activity around this library during the competition is really high, and the author itself adds a lot of stuff, and other developers are also contributing by just using or testing it, but also adding some features. So it's really cool to see um, this kind of like the community helping each other.
Yeah, I think that's right. I kind of like said it before about the hackathons, and that's one of the reasons why I love hackathons so much. And in game jams, it's just people helping everyone else and helping each other and building the community and contributing to each other's code and helping one another out, even though they're all in competition. So I think that's something I really like. And big kudos to yourself for getting this going. And like it's been running for like 8 years now. This is its 9th year.
Yeah.
So what is your vision for JS13K Games moving forward, and where do you see it kind of going?
I would like to see it grow in a way it grows over the years, because it's I'm really impressed that every single year there is something new happening around the competition. The WebXR category was introduced like 3 years or 4 years ago. Web monetization last year. I'm getting so much help running the competition from developers that help build the validation bot, so I don't have to manually check the submissions, or like the voting system, so people can actually focus on that. So I'm really thankful to all the developers helping with the competition, and I can imagine that in the next years we will have more tools, more developers helping with the competition, and I'm happy with how the competition is evolving and growing over the years. So I don't have any like high expectations or anything. I'm just happy with how it works every single year, and that um, people are happy to develop games and submit to the competition, and they are building tools and experiences that I couldn't even imagine are possible, like the 26 games in one, or like tiny operating system, or like real-time strategy games in 3D WebGL with shaders and whatnot. So I'm really impressed by the quality of games, and I would like to see this going forever.
I think from what I'm seeing right now, it looks like it's definitely going to be going on for a fairly long time. Now, you've been pretty much solo ship steering JS13K Games. We can see on your website you've got a bunch of really cool judges, and it looks like they're from all over the world in so many different time zones. So how do you all work together to judge the games and to come up with the winners and things?
So there are two parts to that. So the experts actually, because previously we had judges who were playing the games, but it was okay when you had 60 entries, but with 250, it's really tough to play all the games. We had some judges that were playing all of them, but it's really hard to play all and judge them in a way that that will be fair. So the competition evolved, and we have experts who are actually providing feedback, playing small amount of games, comparably small. So, for example, an expert have so when the competition submission time ends, September 13th, and the winners are announced on October 4th, an expert have 3 weeks to play given games, like 20 or 30 games, and provide written feedback of playing those games and saying, this was really good, this could be improved. And as I mentioned, developers really value the feedback. And then there's also the voting system in which developers themselves who submit the games vote on other people's games, and then winners are announced out of that. So we have the best experts in the field who create the games, and they also vote for the games, and the winners are announced out of that voting.
Yep, that sounds pretty good, and I think as you said, like people really value that feedback, and I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of people get involved in game jams or hackathons is to not only build out their profiles and their CV, or for a lot of people build out their GitHub contribution graph. It's to get that that industry expertise, that industry experience, and to get the feedback from the people. So if this is something you do want to get into, you've got that really good feedback and a really good base that you can go and like build on top of. So yeah, I think you've done...
Absolutely. I mean, there were many cases in which participating in the competition or having any open source stuff or like anything as a hobby was an advantage in a job interview. So one thing is having skills or job experience, but the other is having some passion and having some cool projects to show, because there were many cases where somebody was recruited because a recruiter saw a game submitted to the competition, which is really cool for me.
So you can say everything that you've built has been helping people get jobs, which is incredible and absolutely amazing. I think it's great. I mean, I don't know how much you've looked into my background or anything like that, and I don't expect you to have all, but that is the reason why I love running hackathons, is because and especially when I had my first company, when we hired people, our question was, have you actually been to a hackathon? Like, we're hiring for a developer role. It's like, have you been to a hackathon? If the answer was no, it's like, well, that's okay, but have you done anything outside your university degree? Because if you haven't, it says that you're not passionate about what you're doing. And for people to give up their time to either go to a hackathon or participate in a game jam or be part of something like Hacktoberfest or something like that, it just shows that you're actually passionate about that. And that's what people want to hire for. They don't necessarily just want to hire for your skills. I mean, your skills are good, but you can kind of teach skills. You can't really teach the passion, the drive, and the motivation. So I think you know, it's fantastic you put something together like this.
Yeah,
And,
if you have like hundreds of CVs and you have to look for something that will stand out, those kind of projects, those kind of activities definitely help.
yeah, I 100% agree. So, if anyone in the chat or those watching the VOD afterwards, there's a link. Go join up if you're interested in game development, if you're interested in you know, writing, you know, games in tiny little files. And I think, yeah, Techie Man's exactly right too. You have to have a portfolio outside your actual portfolio. So, you know, you have your portfolio of your skills and the jobs that you've done. But what are your extracurricular activities, and how do they play into, you know, the job that you're looking for? Because as you've said, Andre, is you know, everyone who goes for an interview, you've pretty much all got the same skills because you're applying for the job. So what makes you stand out? And I think it's, you know, it's those things like, hey, I participated in even if you don't win, even if you don't get in the top 10 or the top 100, you know, the fact that you actually participated in something.
Yes, there are so many, like there are so many games submitted to the competition, but over the years I'm learning about people who are building something but didn't submit it. And I realized that there are many of those because I was participating in many jams and I didn't submit something because I didn't finish it. So there are like hundreds of games every year that aren't submitted to the competition. And it's we were talking about this, that if you submit something that is buggy and if you think it's ugly but it works, that's already an achievement. You already submitted something. Because there were many people building and didn't finish. So if you finish it, you can call it the 0.1 version and just improve the post-competition versions. But if you can submit something, that's already an achievement.
I 100% agree, and that's something we talk about hackathons is like, you know, just pitch the idea or pitch the thing, or just do the actual thing, and then, you know, what is actually more important is what you say afterwards. You know, I've done this game, but I'm planning on, when I've got more time, or, you know, the next day, I'm planning to do this and this and this and this. And I think that's what people really value, the fact that you've thought about the next stage, and that's not what, you know, that's not the be all and end all. So that was actually going to be my last question to you is, you know, what are your tips to people who are, you know, a bit worried about submitting games or whatever? But you've basically answered the question, which is just go for it anyway.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, if you write your plan, if you're start building something, throw away as much as possible. Don't overcomplicate it. If it's simple enough, you will be able to finish the development, submit the game, and then you can work after the competition with some extra stuff. So removing extra stuff, removing what's not necessary is a way to go. So you have like a working prototype, and you still, if you still have time and you still have space, you can add something on top of it. But if you have a working prototype, you can submit it in any time. Even if something happens and you lose 2 weeks because your family will tell you we have to go on a vacation, you still can submit something and be happy with it.
And I think that's the thing, right? Is that you've really got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Just go. I mean, what are you going to lose? I mean, you might not get the top prize, but that's not the end of the world. So I think, yeah, I think your tips and ideas there are just, you know, so valuable for so many people who are just looking at this industry going, I don't know where to get started. I'm worried about submitting something that's not finished. I think you kind of answered all the questions for the people, and now it's kind of up to, you know, the viewers here and anyone else who's thinking about getting involved in games or hackathons. It's really up to you now, just go and do it, I think.
I mean, if I would be a recruiter and I would see one big unfinished MMORPG versus 10 simple HTML5 games that you can play directly in a browser, that is important. That the second case is someone who can actually finish and deliver projects in limited time. So that's really important. Yes.
Or small constraints, whichever way you want to look at it. No, I think you know, everything you said is just so on point, and yeah, I just want to thank you again so much for joining us, especially coming all the way from Poland and tuning in at, it's now 7 o'clock your time and you're probably going to go back to bed now. We really thank you so much for being on the channel
Thank
today.
you so much.
Just share JS13K Games, and we really hope a lot of people tune in and participate in the competition.
Awesome.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you so much for being part of today's live stream. We're very excited and very thankful to have the amazing creator from JS13K Games with us. I think he has some really amazing top tips on getting involved in game jams, hackathons, just taking your passion and just running for it. I think that's what's really important. As he mentioned, all the games that are created on JS13K Games are available on GitHub. Not all of them have open source licenses, but a good majority of them do, so a lot of them are open source, so go check them out. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Keep an eye on our social media and our Twitch channel for the next stream. I know B. Doug, you'll be chatting to some of the maintainers over on the American time zone, and we've always got some really exciting content on our Twitch channel for you, so I want to thank you all for being here, and we'll see you all next time. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.